I would like to mention the two players who are currently from the WPIL on the Penn State roster.
Okay.
Uh, First, from Newcastle, Pennsylvania, is Nick Colella. He was a 2-year player up at the Barron campus up in Erie, Penn State, and transferred here to University Park for his junior year. He decided to try to walk on for the basketball team, worked hard, and ended up making the team because of his hard work. And you can't say this kid wasn't dedicated. He looked around. He even uh, between classes, between working out, he found time. He was a defensive player, like a scout player for the women's basketball team up
Hmm.
here. And that was just an extra way for him to get on the court a little bit more just to keep on working. So for all you youngsters out there, follow the lead of Nick Colella because he never started a game up. He was the sixth man up in Barron, yet he comes to University Park and walks on, makes the team. Now he's currently redshirting for this year, but maybe we'll see him here on the court next year.
And sorry to interrupt you. I'll let you get to the second person in a minute. But this is important, having someone from the Newcastle area on a Division One basketball team. I really can't remember the last time a Newcastle player was on a Division One team. This is something that Newcastle fans can be proud of. Um,
I mean, yeah, the only other names that come to mind that I can think of, you had David Young, who I think graduated from Newcastle in 98, 99 maybe, and then you're talking back to Kevin Cover from the Shannon graduating in 96, 97.
yeah, so this is a very good thing for Newcastle just to have a Division One player, regardless if it's a walk on or not. Um, Get on. Who did you say the second player was?
The second player had a big game last night too against Purdue. DJ Jackson. He is from Farrell, Pennsylvania. He went to Kennedy Catholic. He is a absolute defensive juggernaut. Ball hawking, and one of the main things, even through Penn State's horrible free throw percentages, like I mentioned earlier, he has been a consistent 90% free throw shooter for the last 3 years as a starter, and now this year becoming an absolutely huge scoring threat, especially from outside, as we saw last night, hitting a clutch three with just 15 seconds left.
Hmm. Interesting. Um, would you know of anyone currently on Penn State's radar um, from maybe the Newcastle area? Is there any other big names that's being talked about within the Penn State program?
Well, Alex, it's tough to tell right now. According to Rivals.com right now, Penn State has 4 commitments, one being Peter Alexis from Wilkes-Barre. We also have coming a Pat Ackerman from Maryland, a 6'10 center rated 3 stars, a, a small forward from Minnesota, also 3 stars, Ross Travis, and Trey Lewis, a point guard from Ohio, of all places, at a 2 star. But again, right now, there's just not much in the Keystone State. One person has committed, and that's 6'11" Peter Alexis, who committed now over a year ago to Penn State. So, I mean, it's tough to tell. I think a lot depends. We could possibly be getting more recruits to Penn State if they continue to play well, and I think a tournament bid would go a long way to getting them more recruits and more stars in the making.
Yeah, you can say that Penn State's success really can dictate where these WPIAL recruits go. Like you said, not all there's not much of them, but you'd figure the remaining ones are probably middle of the pack type of players. They'll probably get mid card offers from mid card schools. So if Penn State can find a way, to start winning games, they can get on the radar and hopefully keep some of these WPIAL players here, and it'll definitely be interesting. So, but
We'll just
right
have to wait
now,
and see.
yeah, we're just have to wait and see. We're gonna. I like to switch it over to football. Right now, there's a lot of stuff going on with the football program. Of course, Joe Paterno is always going to be a hot topic. His health, when's he going to retire? All that stuff. The football team finished 7-6. The last few years, they finished 11-2. What can you tell us about the state of Penn State football?
Well, it'll be interesting. Right now, the current state of the Penn State program is we're young. They had 50 out of the 80 that were technically on the roster were freshmen and sophomores. So that makes for some exciting ball coming up as these kids get older. but it also makes for a little bit of an issue recruiting wise because there just simply are not very many scholarships available to be handed out. Therefore, the recruiting list for this year has been slim, to say the very least.
Now, I remember the beginning of this year, Penn State only had a handful of recruits. I think they only had three or four. How many are they up to at the moment?
The current count, we Penn State football has 15 on the committed list for this year. And like you said, that's happened just in the last month, and a big reason for that has been the issues down at the University of Pittsburgh.
Um, Another thing I'd like to talk about is the coaching situation there. Joe Paterno, obviously a legend. Do you think this will be his last year in Happy Valley?
Well, he's to the last year of his contract, so, you know, and he's 80 million years old. So, of course, yes, the natural thinking is that, yes, he is going to retire at the end of this year. But then again, he is Joe Paterno. He is going to coach until he dies, is the way it feels like. So, again, it'll be interesting, but I think he might face the same pressure that someone like Bobby Bowden and Dave Longstead have faced in the last couple of years uh, the if it doesn't improve too much this year.
Now, Tom Bradley interviewed for the Pitt job. There's rumors that he interviewed for the UConn job. That tells people a few things. Um, Most importantly, that he probably doesn't expect to be in Happy Valley much longer. They're probably going to not pass the torch to him. They're probably going to go out of house. Have you heard anything specific about Bradley or who the new coach might be, what they're looking for?
The the assumption has always been that Tom Bradley has been the coach in waiting. Now, Joe Paterno's son Jay, who is the quarterbacks coach for Penn State, has seemed to rise up in the coach in waiting possibility status. But I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with the experts. I think the next Penn State coach will come from out of house. I think just after having one guy for so long, you need to go from outside the program.
Now, him being at Penn State for 32 years, working for the same head coach, is probably what turns athletic directors away from him. He doesn't really have much experience as a head coach. In my opinion, he's basically been the head coach there, however, for the last 5 years. Joe Paterno, in my eyes, is more of a mascot than anything.
Well, that is definitely a very common thought for people around the country, and yes, including the students and even some players on the Penn State team, it seems. But that being said, 2 years ago, he ended up coaching from the booth, if you can call it coaching, because during a practice a week before the start of the season, he was physically demonstrating how to do a proper onside kick. So you can't tell me that he's not actually a part of the team and actually doing something with it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that definitely caught a lot of people by surprise is when he ran off the field because he had to go to the bathroom. That certainly didn't help his image.
Well, that was a while ago, and he's an old man, and give him some credit, but yes, that was pretty funny.
I mean, I have a lot of respect for Joe Paterno, but I just thought that was pretty funny. Let's go back to recruits. Is there any local WPIAL players on Penn State's radar? Has there been any commits that are from Pittsburgh area?
Well, one of the big recruits that has come up is Ben Klein, linebacker from Dallastown. He originally committed to Pitt, was one of the guys who transferred over after the Wanstead resignation. As for current recruits from the WPIL area, we have a Shaquan Pulliam, an athlete from Cathedral Prep up in Erie, who's a three-star recruit. He is currently the only full commitment to Penn State as of now. We have Dion Barnes, a four-star recruit, just committed. He's a defensive end from Philadelphia, and that has really bumped up Penn State's recruiting status for this year. So they have a couple from Pennsylvania. Here's an interesting name for you. An Allen Robinson, wide receiver from St. Mary's in Michigan. That is where Robert Bolden went to high school. So maybe that also tells you about what may be happening with the quarterback situation for next year.
Well, there was rumors that he was going to transfer. If I'm correct, he even said himself he wanted to transfer. But from according to the Post-Gazette, Joe Paterno actually talked him out of it, convinced him to stay. Um, do you see him as a starting quarterback in Happy Valley, or do you see them possibly staying with McGloin or anyone else?
Well, first off, from what the Daily Collegian has been saying up here, the first reports out were that his dad was saying that Rob wanted to transfer, and then actually that Paterno denied him the opportunity to transfer at first because he thought the decision was made too hastily. So he wanted to give him time to think about it first, and then ended up, like you said, it sounds like convincing him out of it. But now, as for the quarterback situation next year, in my mind, it is a three-man race between Bolden, McGloin, and redshirt freshman Paul Jones. Going into this season, Paul Jones was my pick to be the starting quarterback. Saw him in the blue-white game last year, and not only was he the only consistent player, he was the only one to score a touchdown. He threw two beautiful passes into the back corner for touchdowns. So, and especially after having a year sitting back, watching what's going on around him, I'd keep my eyes open for Paul Jones. But as of now, I think it is McGloin's job to lose still.
Yeah, McGloin first impressed with his game against Michigan. He had a pretty lights out game, you can say. But now, after his recent slide the last few games of the season, I'm starting to think it was more of Michigan's defense being pathetic than actually McGloin playing well. What do you think?
Well, there's definitely something about a Rich Rodriguez defense that makes any quarterback look good.
Yeah.
But then again, he still performed well in the last couple games against Northwestern, against Michigan State. But then playing against the SEC defense of Florida, I mean, 5 interceptions, that kind of speaks for itself.
Well, I know Tate Forcier wanted to transfer according to ESPN. Maybe he'll look at Happy Valley, right? How ironic would that be?
That would be very ironic. I wouldn't count on it, but stranger things have happened here.
Yeah, probably not. Just an interesting thought. Um, what kind of coach would you want Penn State to have? Would you want a big name? Would you want an up-and-coming coach like Pitt did with Todd Graham? Should they change style of play? They've been mostly a pro-style ball control offense for the better part of this decade. I know they had a few years there with the spread. What do you think?
Well, to me, I think you need to get a big enough name that people will still want to come to Penn State. I mean, a lot of people have come for the tradition. So you want to get a big enough name that recruits are interested, but not somebody who's going to completely change the entire style of play. Now, with the way college football has gone, there is no more pro offense besides pretty much University of Wisconsin is about the only team still running a pro style offense. But then again, look what they just did this year going to the Rose Bowl. So, I mean, I don't think changing the offense is necessary, but it's probably going to happen no matter what because the option, the spread, seems to be the style of play all around the country today.
Yeah, Pitt did that with Todd Graham.
Which is the right call. I think it's time. Especially, I think Pitt is the last school in the Big East that was still running that pro style offense, and to be able to spread it out, especially with some of the fast players they have down there. I mean, why not change things up, see what you can do?
I agree, but you can't necessarily blame the system. I think there are some successful programs that run a pro-style offense that have been pretty successful. Wisconsin, even though they lost to TCU, which wasn't very good for the Big Ten. I think Connecticut ran a pro-style offense. I mean, 8-4. I guess it's not great, but I think in Pitt's situation, it was more of just bad play calling not in terms of necessarily the offense they ran. But anyway, let's not shift over to Pitt. This is about Penn State today.